Hey you guys, it's Britt. Tonight we're here to talk about Jaclyn Hill, of all people. I haven't talked about her in quite a while. And her husband, her new husband, she's newly married is what I'm trying to say. He went on a podcast and had quite a few things to say about her hairy lipsticks and cancel culture and all of the things. So I figured that we could talk about it. So if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys. So this was on the Paid Day Off podcast. It was just posted a day ago and it has 19,000 views. I think most of you who follow my channel know all about Jaclyn Hill, her hairy lipsticks, lipstick gate, and probably just overall how she responds to criticism and how she, kind of takes on the people who try to hold her accountable online. Jaclyn Hill's a huge creator, and she is someone who doesn't interest me. She has never really interested me personally, but obviously, since I have a commentary channel, I have kept up with some of her antics over the last couple of years specifically, and I've talked about it sporadically. Nothing too consistent because, like I said, she quite bores me. But with this, I think that it's a very interesting conversation where we are talking about Lipstick Gate all these years later. And we're going to listen to what he has to say. It's a 3-minute clip. It's not very long. But this clip has a lot of people upset. So let's hear what he has to say.
Still tying to Jaclyn because with everything she kind of went through over the past years, we saw all the bullshit that she went.
Keep in mind, this is supposedly filmed in her backyard. Now, again, I don't follow Jaclyn normally, but this is evidently filmed in her backyard, which I also find is very interesting.
How do we feel about cancel culture?
Oh, bro. Yo, as somebody who watched their loved one get destroyed from that, because to you, it's just a comment on a forum or an Instagram post or a YouTube video.
Let's talk for just a second about the difference between cancel culture and accountability culture. I've been talking about this since the early days of my channel, so I'm sure some of you are like, oh Lord, here she goes again. But there is a distinct difference, and it's something that a lot of people choose to ignore because I don't think that it's difficult to differentiate between wanting to hold someone accountable versus wanting to bully them or cancel them. Most of us can tell the difference between the two. When somebody calls being held accountable or asking for some accountability, people wanting to cancel them, what it's doing is it's painting them as a victim, and it's basically shielding any comment, any feedback that they get as people hating on them and mistreating them for either a really silly reason or no reason at all. And people do get bullied online. That is a very real thing. But with the people that I talk about, at least the ones that I talk about on a normal basis, it's usually subscribers wanting some accountability, some answers, some transparency. It's not just people hating on somebody because they don't like the way they look or they don't like, this one thing that the person said. Like, it's definitely a lot easier to just say everyone's trying to cancel me instead of going through and actually looking like, okay, who is actually asking for some accountability, maybe some answers, maybe asking for a refund. It's just it's a scapegoat. It's easier to get out of it altogether instead of taking the time and being able to look at, who's making what kind of argument here. Let's actually look at it, reflect, make some changes, and not just say, oh, everyone hates me, everyone's trying to cancel me. And as we go further into this video, please keep in mind, most of you guys know, I'm not here for bullying. Never have been, never will be. I think that there are ways to deliver criticism to any YouTuber, any influencer, any person, you can be very blunt in the things that you're saying to this person. And you can do it without being a bully.
But like, you put enough of those together and that shit turns from a sentence to a bullet. And you can kill somebody with that shit, bro. I'm surprised.
I don't think that it's fair to look at the entire lipstick controversy and try to say that that could have killed Jaclyn Hill, essentially. Oh, all of this criticism. Part of the reason that Lipstick Gate turned into Lipstick Gate from the get-go is because of the way that Jaclyn responded. It was the way that she handled it. People initially were upset. They voiced their frustrations. There were photos, videos, da-da-da, whatever. If she would have taken control of the situation and done the right thing in the beginning, instead of saying that people have crusty lips, and then later on, like way down the road, like having to apologize for saying that the lady had, or the customer had crusty lips, lashing out at subscribers, saying you're just a hater when they were actually a paying customer that bought a faulty product. If she would have handled it differently, it would have not turned into the monstrosity that it did turn into.
I'm surprised we haven't seen more people commit suicide who have fame, who deal with this shit, because it will derail you. It will make you crumb. If
it's actually hate comments that have zero place on the internet, because I have seen quite a few of those comments myself, those are the people that you really should be ignoring. And when these big YouTubers get to the point where they have managers and social media people and PR people and attorneys and assistants that they work with, why not have them get rid of all the hate comments and actually say, okay, who out of these comments are actually people that I need to address? And how do I address it? And how do I take control of this before it gets out of control and turns into frickin' Lipstick Gate 5.0, you know?
Here's the thing. If your identity is tied to whatever is getting canceled, because everybody's got fame and they got their personal life, right? If your identity is tied to that, it will ruin you. It will ruin you. I'm not saying that some people don't deserve to be like, hey, I don't fuck with him no more. I don't fuck with her no more. Like, I get that, man. But like, it's so dangerous to the person on the other side of that.
Yeah.
And I've got firsthand experience of how that shit can rock your world. And it's like, and the truth is, bro, like, what my girl went through with her lipsticks was not her fault. Like, I'm not gonna go into details just for like legal reasons, and I don't want to dabble in that, but like that was literally.
But again, we come back to the point of most people that look at this situation don't condone bullying. They don't condone the probably large handful of really nasty people that were sending Jaclyn hate. Most people were just done with her at that point. And the lipstick situation confirmed a lot of things for them. She doesn't know how to mend the situation. She doesn't know how to respond to criticism. She doesn't know how to run a business, even though she has painted herself as some kind of boss babe CEO for the longest time. It just confirmed a lot of things, and people asking for accountability is not cancel culture. Everybody knows that, okay, let's just say, like the hairy lipsticks, no, it wasn't solely Jaclyn's fault, but it was her identity and her name and her face and everything. This was her brand. And if you're going to have your own brand and you are the CEO boss bitch of YouTube, then you need to also be willing to have the tough conversations and take some accountability when it's time to take accountability. Instead of calling customers haters and automatically focus on the handful of people that are being nasty. Ignore those people. Focus on the paying customers that wanted some accountability and your subscribers who built you to the point where you could have your own brand.
Not my girl's fault. And the internet ruined her for a while. Like she'll tell you straight up, out of everything she's been through, that was a
For somebody wanting so much respect from the public, let's talk about Jaclyn Hill also taking complete advantage and stomping on a small creator who she totally stole the whole cozy or whatever that whole scandal was. You completely just squashed a really small creator and took something as if it was your own.
I don't know if you guys remember or if you were around for the Jaclyn Hill lipstick gate situation, but that was truly the peak of the drama community and I miss it oh so dearly. However, I don't wish her bad luck in the business department. However, she keeps on bringing it upon herself. Anyway, Jaclyn Hill released a cozy line called Cozy. I think it's Coz. Turns out she just stole that from someone else, a smaller influencer. This YouTuber actually has a Coz brand and it's very similar to Jaclyn Hill's in the sense that they sell like cozy things like, home related stuff. However, All Things Coz is a whole brand for this influencer. Like she has a YouTube channel called All Things Coz. She sells products, she sells planners, she does yoga under her subscription service that she has for Coz. She has a podcast under Coz. She sells a bunch of stuff. Like it's a whole brand. It's not just like one thing. It's like her whole overarching umbrella. However, she is a Canadian YouTuber and she didn't trademark Coz, which she does admit is her wrongdoing. She did incorporate as Coz, which protected her in some areas of the law, but not in others. So obviously Jaclyn Hill did her market research, saw that this exists. Probably thought it'd be great advertising because like this thing already exists and people look for it, they'll just find Jaclyn Hill's one. But she also noticed that it wasn't trademarked, so she just went along and took it. And she actually didn't trademark it until she started selling products. So actually this YouTuber found Jaclyn Hill's Coz Instagram page when it was on about 600 followers. So she could have trademarked it very quickly, sent Jaclyn Hill a cease and desist, and then followed up with a lawsuit, but she couldn't afford it because it was about 95 grand. US dollars, not Canadian. Canadian would be over 100 grand. So she just didn't do it because she can't afford it. So Jaclyn Hill wins purely on the basis that she's filthy rich. And this influencer now has to change her whole branding, change her whole name, change everything. Her podcast, blog, subscription service, products, everything. She even has an All Things Coz neon sign on the wall that she's probably gonna have to take down and change. So that's great. Good for you, Jaclyn Hill.
Anybody ever heard of this content creator right here and her brand Coz? Well, it used to be a brand, but then this bigger content creator named Jaclyn Hill trademarked that name Coz, then apparently went after the original creator. I remember hearing about this a few weeks back. My wife told me about it because she knows that I love hearing things about business, and this had to do with trademarks. And if you didn't know, I'm actually having a trademark battle with Aloe Yoga. What I think is funny is I do a lot of stuff that normal local business wouldn't do in the very beginning. As soon as I designed my logo, I started my trademarking process. I did my first trademark myself to save money. It was a lot of work and research. Being a startup business, I had to figure out where to put my money and how to budget it. I was already in a lot of personal debt because I couldn't get any business loans. Protecting my business has always been my priority since day one. If I'm putting all this money and all this effort, blood, sweat, and tears into my business, I would never want someone to just come in and take everything I had. Which is why the first thing I did was did a trademark search for my gym name. I also figured that if anybody else tried to use my name, that I could go after them because, like I said, I worked extremely hard to open up this gym. It's very unfortunate to what happened to this girl. A lot of these content creators are very young, naive, not knowledgeable in business. She had already a pretty good following and she already had invested a lot of time and effort into her brand. For somebody to just come in and take everything from you is just devastating. Now, you're going to hear a lot of people tell you that you don't have to trademark your brand, that if you've been using it for X amount of years, that you're protected. Just remember that you're going to have to go to court. Even if you're in the right and you win, you're still going to have to pay out of pocket. And we're talking tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. In order to try to avoid this, it's a great investment to spend the $500 to $2,000, whatever that lawyer charges you to trademark your brand and do it the right way. There's a lot more to this story. It's actually pretty crazy. I do recommend you go and see what she went through in her experience and what she's doing now.
So people who are demanding respect and saying that they are the victim of YouTube, I also think that they should show who they are with their own actions. And I think that Jaclyn Hill has shown people who she is through her own actions, and therefore people have been done with her for a long time now.
One of the worst experiences of her life. And it's like, because people made assumptions on shit they don't know. You don't work with labs. You're not signing contracts. You're not in negotiation rooms. You're not in a war room. It's like, you don't know what's going on.
That's right. Nobody knows. We're not in a war room. We're not in a board meeting and in a lab or whatever. But when you are an influencer and you're a public figure, you also, it's up to you to use your platform to provide people with answers, because no, they aren't in the lab. So when you're given the opportunity to be transparent and give people some answers, how about, instead of deflecting, denying, and doing a bunch of, bullshit on your channel, actually be transparent, and things would not have grown into the monster that turned into, Lipstick Gate. And just as a little reminder as well, when Jaclyn wanted to say that her lipsticks were contaminated and, that was just essentially fake news, contamination is when your product contains something that should not be in there. And I think that most of us agree that hairs and fuzz don't belong in a damn lipstick. That is contamination. And I know that admitting that your product is contaminated is something scary to have to face head on. But guess what? The facts were there.
Started seeing like shards of plastic, the long hairs, the black hairs. I saw Christy do her microscope thing. Then I'm like, okay, this is now not just a fluke thing. Like, this is contamination. Whether it's a dangerous one or not, things being embedded in lipsticks with all of those things, it's not just one thing. That is contamination. That's just factual of what it is. And so that's when I knew at this point, the lab that I truly believe did this. And that's why I got so upset. Okay, so on June 6th, 2016, it was a Monday. I know it because I have it on my calendar. I have saved all of my appointments where I go. I was at this lab working on my concealers that I never launched, and I will show you pictures of them. These are my concealers. They had shards of plastic in them. They had fingerprints. They had hairs in them. They had black specks in them. Does that sound familiar? These were concealers that I had with this lab that I was at on June 6, 2016. Working on them. Once we got full production, I never launched them. I never really spoke on why, and it was devastating for me because I still have my prototype one right here. This is not the production one, so it's not super funky. This was a hand pressed one in the lab. It looks good from here. I'd been using it and everything like that. So this lab that I was at, June 6, 2016, I saw Jaclyn there. And I had texted her. I found out that she was going to be in the same city this lab was, and I texted her. This is, after our collaboration and everything, I was like, hey, I saw you're going into town. I would love to just meet you for coffee. And she responded like she didn't have time. She was busy. I'm like, okay. So then I'm sitting in my lab, and I'm down in my lab rep's office, which is kind of weird because usually I'm in the conference room. And so I was like, this is kind of odd. And my lab rep was kind of like fumbling around, like trying to tell me like, oh, we didn't have this date scheduled. I was like, no, it's on the calendar right here. And my team is coming with me. So it was me, myself, and 2 other of my staff members were there. So we're sitting there working on product. One of my staff members go to the bathroom, comes back and was like, Jaclyn's here. And I was like, okay, oh, that's okay. Well, Jaclyn's here. Okay. And I didn't go down because she was in the conference room with another, another person. And my lab rep, as soon as she heard that, my staff member came in and said, Jaclyn's here. This is unprofessional for the lab rep's part. It was like, oh yeah, we're working on Jaclyn's lipsticks. I was like, okay, like in my mind, the red flag, I'm like, that's a huge protocol no. Like no lab should ever. And so I was like, okay, let it slide from there. Fast forward to now, so after I got my concealers that had all of these issues with them, I had let Jaclyn know. I was like, look, I've had issues with these concealers. I know you were at this lab or whatever, or if, I don't know who's doing your lipsticks, honestly, but don't work with this lab because I had a really shitty problem with them. It is well known, this is why I'm so vocal, is because it is well known now behind the scenes of the beauty community with many manufacturers, with other CEOs, with other labs. The whole industry behind the scenes now knows that this one specific lab has had an issue multiple times with multiple peoples with producing, I'm just going to say it, shitty product. And so, it's no surprise there. So when I saw these lipsticks come out, I cannot say for sure if these lipsticks are made at that same lab. I'm not there in the production line to see it physically. I'm just saying the name of it because of legalities, and I'm not gonna, this isn't like a drama thing. I'm just stating the truth that it is well known that this lab has produced garbage. And so, that's why I was so vocal, you guys. It was no hatred for Jaclyn. I am genuinely concerned about the safety of people using these.
It was on her to be transparent about the whole thing. Just say they're contaminated, do the refunds. Like, things should have moved a lot faster than they did. But ego usually gets in the way, and I think that's a lot of Jaclyn Hill's problem as well.
Like, you don't know what's going on. You don't know this shit. It's like Alec Baldwin when the girl got shot on set. Everybody, he's a murderer. It's like I don't comment on that shit because I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. And just because I watched what has happened to my girl time over time again with people coming after her with these scandals, it's like, you don't know.
But the problem with labeling something as a scandal is usually a little more lighthearted. Sending people a product that you put your name on that was contaminated with hairs and fuzz, that's not a scandal. That is so much bigger, and it's something that should have been handled completely different than what Jaclyn did. And still to this day, we don't have any real transparency. She has just moved on. She's stomped on smaller creators, and she's continued to, try to increase her net worth. Other professionals have come out and given a very clear picture as to who Jaclyn is when she is doing these shady business dealings that she has participated in. Marlena Stell has come out and given a testimony about her, and it's given people a very clear picture as to why Jaclyn is shady AF, to be honest.
You're not there. There is so much more that goes on behind the scenes. So many more people involved. So many more hands that are in this. So many more angles and obstacles and all this stuff. And it's like, you read a couple things and you make a judgment and then you call somebody a piece of shit. It's like, yo, fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. You'll never find a comment online. I mean, listen, I can't count back to when I was 12 years old on MySpace or whatever, but like, I will never leave a comment on somebody's shit when they're going through something, popping shit about them. Because the truth is, you never know. It's like Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion.
Well, I'll send a gold star sticker in the mail for you because you're never going to leave a bad comment about somebody. This kind of stuff, it's completely different when people are asking for some accountability. This whole idea of, oh, well, I would never do that, and you don't know, and you're not in the boardroom, and haters, and talking about unaliving, and all of this really serious, heavy stuff. It's just trying to take the attention away from what actually happened. We all saw what happened. Jaclyn never took accountability, and she just marched on her merry way, as most influencers do, and wants people to forget about history. That's exactly what we saw from her.
Man, we've been through court. It's been years. We've heard we still don't know what happened. We got people that shit on both of them. Yeah. And it's like, you don't know what happened. Why do you have an opinion?
Okay, well...
Okay, but with some situations, maybe people don't know what happened. But if we're going to talk about lipstick situation here, She put her name and face on her own brand, sent out a faulty product. The customers received the faulty product. They showed the faulty product, so it wasn't hearsay and a bunch of conspiracies. So I think that people do know what happened. They received a faulty product, didn't receive any accountability, and took ages to get their refund. And I heard allegedly that some people never got their refund from their stupid hairy lipsticks. So this is just completely ridiculous. And there's a comment here, I completely forgot about this. This person said the lipsticks were her fault. She didn't listen to Marlena after Marlena told her about that lab. And of course, they're liking comments that are in favor of Jaclyn. You know, to compare hairy lipsticks to the Alec Baldwin situation, how dare you? How dare you? This little clip of this podcast said so much in such a short period of time. I just think that the whole thing is completely ridiculous, and there are a lot of really good comments on this video. One person said, I don't think cancel culture should be the case for Jaclyn. However, you talking about unaliving, all people want from her is the truth. That's it. I was a hardcore Jaclyn fan, but after the is it Cozy or Cozy? I'm not sure. Situation, I had to stop buying makeup from her. But as I said, no one should be canceled, and it sucks that she's been torn apart by people. I'm not that way. I just have an opinion now and wishing nothing but the best for Jaclyn. It's a little cringe. This was filmed in Jaclyn's backyard. It feels like an agenda is being pushed. Jaclyn never took accountability. That's the difference. It's giving agenda push since it's filmed in her yard. Asking a brand for accountability is not the same as cancel culture. Not her fault. She straight up lied to her subscribers, and she never cleared up anything. She just moved on and constantly mentions it without giving any details. This take is interesting. Most of the people who get canceled, it's because they lie and they don't take accountability. Someone like Jaclyn, who does dance around the truth with her ego, lie and does anything to sell something. Her morals are questioned. And then to interview her husband, who of course is going to defend Jaclyn when he's living the life that Jaclyn provides for him. These content creators can simply own up to their bullshit and excuses, but instead they lie and make more money. Marlena has a very different story. People need to be held accountable for their actions. Be held accountable for your actions. Jaclyn's name is constantly being talked about in the middle of drama and scandal. Do you think it's a coincidence? Once again, this feels like a load of excuses. I don't condone sending hateful or violent messages to creators, but for God's sake, it's about taking accountability and for the less tasteful things that Jaclyn has done. She has a big audience, and we have our right to disagree with her. Forget about the lipsticks once and for all. Anyone with a brain knows that it wasn't her direct fault. Of course she didn't want that to happen, but she owes her audience the respect of addressing things that people take issue with. Copying entire brands is low class. Jaclyn is not a perfect victim, yet she doesn't acknowledge anything important. It's disheartening, and she gives influencers a bad rep. Being held accountable is not the same as being canceled. So a lot of comments along those lines. It's just simply wanting accountability that was never provided by Jaclyn. And this is the same song and dance with so many different YouTubers and influencers. She wasn't the first, and she won't be the last. She simply won't be. I think that Jaclyn for years has done a good job of presenting herself as a nice girl who is just makeup obsessed. But unfortunately, the things that have unfolded over the last couple of years have really turned her into a shady, quote, CEO who doesn't take accountability. And I think a lot of people see her that way as well. So either way, I'm not into it. Not entertained by her content, not here for any of the bullshit that she is promoting. She constantly only comes out with content when she wants to sell something or she has a collab or a new product dropping, and it's been that way for years. But I wanted to share this with you guys. Leave all your thoughts down below. So for now, if you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.